I'll assume you can follow the tab or the standard notation from the beginning of this video well enough that you can learn the notes on your own. So rather than going note by note, we're going to go phrase by phrase and talk about fingerings, chord shapes, and some techniques that'll make this sound a little smoother. If you do need some help reading tab, I've got a video on that topic. I'll leave a link for that in the description. Also in the description, you'll find a link for ordering a PDF of this music. I'm playing this with a pick, but you could play this with your fingers if you like. As we go through this arrangement, make sure you pay attention to the chords above the music. That's going to help you find good fingerings. Now we have Amazing Grace in 2 verses here. Verse 1 is in G, verse 2 is in C. So of course in verse 1 you're going to see a lot of G chords. We start off with a pickup note, just open 4th string D, and we play a G chord in measure 1, but we're only strumming through the 3rd string because that's where our melody note is. All throughout this arrangement, you're going to be playing chords, but sometimes you're going to take away a string or even add a note to accommodate the melody. So again, we have that pickup note and then a G chord with melody on string 3, a couple single notes here. Now we have G chord with melody on string 2, so that's as far as you strum in the 2nd measure, string 2. And this A at the end of the 2nd measure, I'd like you to play that with your 1st finger. If you play the A with your 1st finger, it allows you to hang on to this G chord just a little bit longer. And make sure you're playing this G chord with fingers 2 and 3 so your 1st finger is freed up. So at the beginning again, I'm going to use my 1st finger on the A, and we move to a partial C chord. We're only strumming through the 3rd string because, again, that's where our melody note is. Then we have an E, and then a partial G chord. And again, only strumming as far as we need for the melody. In this case, the melody's on string 4, so that's as far as we strum. Pick up to measure 5, we're still on a G chord, strumming through the 3rd string because that's where our melody is. Now an E minor chord, strumming through the 2nd string because that's where our melody is now. Now this A at the end of measure 6, I'd like you to play with your 1st finger because in measure 7 we have a D chord, and if you have your 1st finger down on the A from the measure before, you already have 1 finger down that you need. Now that D chord in measure 7, again we're only strumming part of the chord because the melody note is on the 2nd string. But then we're going to decorate that with an F sharp and a G and an F sharp with fingers 2, 4, 2. So let me backtrack to measure 5 so you can hear how all that works in context. G chord, E minor, 1st finger on the A, and this takes us to pick up to measure 9. We have a B, 2nd string, and then we have a G chord, but we're adding our 4th finger on the D, which normally you don't play in that G chord, but it's the melody, so we add a note there. Then lift your pinky up and down for those 8th notes. Still a G chord in measure 10, strumming through string 3, then an open D. Now in measure 11, this is a C chord, but we only start with 2 notes because that E at the top is the melody note. And then G, G, E, and then a G chord, only strumming through the 4th string. Pick up to measure 13, we have this D over F sharp chord. Now normally this is how you play a D over F sharp, but we only need 3 notes of this because we're only strumming through the 4th string because again that's where our melody is. So I'm going to play that low F sharp with my 2nd finger. And if you're curious about that D over F sharp chord, I do have a video on slash chords and I'll leave a link for that in the description. Anyway, we have that D over F sharp, strumming only through the 4th string. Then we have an E minor in measure 13, strumming through string 3 only. Now strumming through string 2. Now this A, And then we have a C chord, only 3 strings, and a little walk down to the G. So let me go back to measure 15, where we start with the C chord. You only strum 3 strings of that. On beat 2, play this B with your first finger so you can hang on to as much of the C chord as you can. And then a G chord, only strumming through string 3 because that's where our melody is. And that leads us into verse 2, which is in the key of C. Verse 1 is in the key of G, verse 2 is in the key of C. So it's a different key, but we're taking the same approach. So again, you're going to be strumming a lot of chords, but either taking away a string or adding a note, depending on what the melody is. So pick up to measure 17, we have an open G, and then we move to a C chord, strumming only through the 2nd string because that's our melody note. Now we strum all the C chord. Play this D at the end of measure 18 with your 4th finger, and then you're moving to a partial F chord in measure 19. We only need 3 notes of this F chord, this F, A, and then C, so you're only strumming through the 2nd string. Because we only need those 3 notes, there's no need to bar strings 1 and 2. And one thing that can help you move to that F chord, in the measure before, measure 18, we're playing a C chord. If you keep your first finger down, then all you have to do is, from the C chord, move fingers 2 and 3 down a string each, and you have an F chord, only strumming through string 2. Then we have this A, and then we have a C chord, but we're only strumming 3 strings of that C chord. We're only strumming through the 3rd string. I'm going to back it up to measure 17, the beginning of this section again. I want to show you how you can play from measure 17 all the way through measure 22, keeping your first finger down the whole way. So pick up to 17, first finger is down. Measure 18, first finger's down. Measure 19, partial F chord, first finger's down. Measure 20, first finger's down. Even though I'm only strumming through the 3rd string and I don't need my first finger, I do need my first finger in measure 21, so I might as well keep it down. So measure 21, first finger's down. Measure 22, A minor, first finger is still down. And then I finally release my first finger at the end of measure 22 when I play this D with my 4th finger. And then in measure 23, we've got a G chord. Finger that with fingers 2, 3, 4, because you're going to do some fancy stuff with your first finger. Then you're going to play a C and a B on the 2nd string while those other notes are ringing. So let me back it up to measure 21. Pick up to measure 21 so you can hear all that in context. A minor, 4th finger on D, and G chord, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Pick up to measure 25, we have an open E, and then we have a C chord, but we're adding our 4th finger on the G, string 1, fret 3, because we need that note for our melody. And then lift your pinky up and down for these 8th notes. Measure 26, still a C chord, strumming through the 2nd string because that's our melody note. Measure 27, we have this partial F chord again, so no need to bar. And even though we start this measure with the F and the A only, I'm going to keep my first finger down on the C because I need to play that C halfway through the measure anyway. Then I move back to a C chord with melody on string 3. Then pick up to measure 29, we have another slash chord. This is a G over B. Normally this is your G over B. But because of the melody, which is on string 3, we only need 3 notes of that G over B chord. So that's as far as I'm strumming, and that's the only finger I'm putting down. Moves into measure 29, A minor chord with melody on string 2. Still A minor, strumming the whole A minor. 4th finger on the D. And then in measure 31, our second to last measure, we have this partial F chord again. Again, no need to bar. We're only playing the F, A, and the C. And you can keep your first finger down from the A minor. So let me back it up to measure 30. Keep your first finger down, moving to this partial F chord, strumming only through string 2. And then our last chord is a C chord, again, only strumming through string 2. And that was Amazing Grace for solo guitar. Have fun with this, and don't forget to check the description to see where you can order the PDF. That's all for now. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time with more guitar tips and arrangements.